cerah sambut mentari, nyalakan layar belajar lagi.
Sudah rindu kembali ke sekolah, tak sabar ingin segera bertemu lagi.
Meskipun jauh namun di hati, tawa candamu selalu temani.
Meski tak langsung menatapmu kawan, semangat belajarku takkan pernah padam.
Walau hanya di rumah saja, takkan padam semangat di jiwa. Perjalanan yang ku lalui, kan ku bagi kisahnya denganmu nanti. Walau hanya di rumah saja, takkan padam semangat di jiwa. Perjalanan yang ku lalui, kan ku bagi kisahnya denganmu nanti. Walau hanya di rumah saja, takkan padam semangat di jiwa. Perjalanan yang ku lalui, kan ku bagi kisahnya denganmu nanti. Oh, this is my journey, so come and join with me. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Good morning, respected teachers, guests, proud parents, and beloved students. Welcome to Cikal Bincang-Bincang, one of the activities of our playground of Cikal Learning Journey. Thank you for coming today. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. I'm Desta Rizky Putri Pratama, and I will be your moderator for this session. Before we begin the students' activity, let me give you a picture of what to expect for the next hour. In this session, we have Keisha Salsabila. Hi, Keisha.
Hello.
All right, and then we have Tanaya Raina. Hi, Tanaya.
Morning.
And we have Alia Naura Hairunisa. Good morning, Alia.
Morning, everyone.
So they are from Year 11 Sekolah Cikal Setu that will lead you in their activity where they will have a discussion about their book club. So during the session, it is encouraged that the audience participates in the activity. Please write down any questions if you have for our speakers through the chat feature. So without further ado, let's give a round of applause and warm welcome to our students.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sanaya.
Hi everyone, my name is Alia.
Hello everyone, my name is Keisha or Keito.
And we do
And then
not
what
know
the-
how to start this podcast.
Yeah,
So in this podcast that we created for Chikal's Playground of Learning, we are going to talk about our English A subject, more specifically the books that we read in that class.
yeah. So basically, I think it was like at term 3 that
Yes.
we did this on. So at term 3 we had this thing called a book club in English A. It is essentially in each of our class we were divided into like 4 to 5 people, and then each of the groups had different books to read, and I think there were about 3 books or
Yes,
how
there
many?
were three books. There was
Yeah.
The Memory Police, Station 11, and The Last Policeman. I personally got to read The Memory Police, which is the same as Tanaya.
Yeah, both Tanaya and Alia read the same book, but I read a different book. I read The Last Policeman. So in here, we're just gonna talk about what we read and what we had to do in that activity. So who's gonna go first? Huh?
Well, maybe we can talk about how I think even before we started reading, we were actually given the option to like choose whatever we want to read. Well, it's not guaranteed that we will read what we want to read, but basically we had the chance, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, true.
maybe
we could choose.
like beyond those 3 books, there were other options too. I don't really remember what it was. Sorry, Parip. But yeah, there was like other things, right? So
Yeah.
we were given kind of like a summary and the cause of destruction, if I'm not mistaken, because we were focusing on post-apocalyptic literature, which I think is like really cool, like post-apocalyptic. Did you guys remember the moment that you saw the book that you were going to read and like what was your first impressions of it and what made
Oh,
you pick it?
Okay, so basically, we were told of what book we got. Basically, we were just given the list of books that we got as well as our groups because, as Alia mentioned, we were sorted into several groups based on the forms that we filled out and also based on our book of choosing. So I think when I first found out that I got the memory police, I was pretty happy. I was ecstatic because that was my first choice because we were given three choices in the Google Forms that we had to fill out. So yeah, it was pretty happy. It was a happy moment for me to get the book that I first wanted. But what about you, Keito or Alia?
Yeah, I think it was the same. I actually picked the Memory Police because I remember, maybe this is kind of like a spoiler, but the cause of destruction in the Memory Police was because of fascism, and it wasn't because of like natural disasters, which the other books kind of focuses on. I think it was really cool and kind of like a new perspective that I haven't really thought of. So yeah, I think that's why I picked it. And when I discovered that I got to read the Memory class, I was really, really happy.
well, that's really nice. But me, I actually forgot what I picked in like the forms thing. I actually forgot. But when I got the last policeman as what I had to read, I was actually kind of confused at first because it was like about apocalyptic, right? But the book, I read a bit of the book, like the summary a bit, but it wasn't like too deep. But when I read it at first, it was mostly okay. This is also probably a spoiler. They really didn't focus on the apocalyptic side. It was more of an addition of spice into it, onto why things
I
happened.
love the way you describe that.
It's like the apocalyptic is more of a like what made these things in the book happen. It wasn't like the main plot. No one was really focusing on it. No one more like the book didn't focus on it. Again, it was more of like a side plot thing, what made everything go. But I mean I was like, oh, okay, we're reading this now. All right, Padip, let's go, I guess. And I read that in like one night. And I was
Really?
the
Oh my
first.
God.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to me at that time, but that was not a good idea because
Wow.
I kind of forgot what happened. Like I kind of
Wow.
forgot what happened like in some scenes, and then in my group I was like one of the first one to finish the book, so that was great.
But we were actually allowed to like make our own timeline and kind of calendar. And personally, in my
Yeah.
group, we divided like all of the chapters into 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we had a pretty long time. So I thankfully didn't have to finish it in one day.
My group didn't have those kind of timelines that you did. We just it was
I
my
mean, we
group
were
wasn't
told to do
that.
it, but not everyone did it, I don't think.
True, true. But then my group wasn't as cooperative as like everyone else. They were kind of just there. Not saying that they're not trying to be, but they're not the talkative kind. Like we have like those recording sessions, right? We had to record our meetings, right? It was kind of hectic. My group was kind of hectic, but did well in the end. So summary time. Who's gonna go first?
So from the books that we read, I chose to read The Memory Police, and Ali also chose to read The Memory Police. So basically, The Memory Police is a novel with 20 plus chapters. It's considered to be kind of like a short novel actually, because compared to other novels that are quite lengthy, The Memory Police was sort of simple and kind of stylistic in the way because it was sort of describing this idyllic place where in reality it was kind of dystopian and no one was allowed to have this sort of freedom. It was basically talking about, like Alia said, fascism. It was talking about
Racism.
fascism. It was talking about how the government controlled other people, and we got to look at a deeper perspective into the residents who lived there, or more specifically, in the point of view of a woman who was influenced by the government. So it's kind of, this book is quite unique because in a way you're not looking at the actions of those partaking in the government, you're not looking at like the law or like in third person point of view, we're looking directly into the perspective of this one citizen who would probably be a background character if not for like the plot. But yeah, we're kind of like looking more into this perspective of a woman who's influenced by the government. So story I mean, the story first starts off as kind of, how would you call it, Alia? Kind of like not so happy, but more like probably nostalgic. And then it takes some sort of dark turn towards
Yeah,
the
I think
end.
as the story progresses, it really takes a toll on the main character, the character that we're following the point of view of, and I feel like that really affects how, as a reader, yeah, it affects the reader's experience, because you're seeing it through her eyes, and the fact that she's changing and her perspective towards looking at the world and towards this thing that's destroying the island is also changing, and yeah, I think it's really cool, and as you said, the writing style is very like atmospheric, so it does take a dark turn, especially towards like the last few chapters.
Yeah, but other than that, yeah, we would recommend it for those of you who'd like short novels,
Yeah, or
but
maybe
with,
you'd have to
yeah,
read it in English class. So,
yeah.
how many stars did you guys give the book that you read? I give Memory Police like 5 stars.
I give Memory Police like 4, but mostly because there were some plot inconsistencies that I was like looking at, so mostly because of that.
What about you, Kate? What is? It's the last policeman,
The
right?
Last
I got it
Policeman.
mixed up.
All right.
Sorry.
So basically, the last. Okay, I don't remember a lot from this because it's been a while since I've read it. Essentially, the Last Policeman is about. It centers around this like murder case that happened. It just goes to the point of view of this one detective who goes on to like a lot of things just to figure out about this. And where the apocalyptic side comes from is that there was like, I think there was a asteroid impact that was gonna come in a few months, around like 6 months or so. And it's basically just it's making the world into a chaos because everyone's gonna be like, oh no, it's the end of the world. I should do things that I haven't did before. It's kind of a YOLO thing. It's like, oh, you only live once. I'm gonna do this, and a lot of things clash, politically, economically, and society. It's everything's going into chaos, and this one detective is trying to solve this mystery case, right? And I would say I kind of actually like the story. It's very complex in my opinion. I genuinely like the book. It's very interesting. There's like a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of plot twists. Not a lot. There are some. There's even a plot twist at the end too. And I think this book actually has a sequel or something. I don't remember. I think it's a trilogy. At the end, it's kind of like a cliffhanger. There's still a continuation to this book too. So that's kind of fun. The plot itself, it's really long. There's like a lot of characters in it that I can't even mention in like one sitting right now. And fun fact, the asteroid thing was gonna hit Indonesia apparently, so that's great. Yeah, so it
Well,
just
I thought it was going to impact like the Earth, all of them. Oh.
oh no, it's like an asteroid attack thing, but like it's
Oh.
gonna be closer to Indonesia, the region
Ah.
wise. Yeah, but how many stars I gave this? I think it was like a 4. I'm not a big novel fan. I mean, I do read novels, but I don't necessarily read something this complex because there's also like scientific stuff in it too. There's a lot. I think there's also, can I say this? Drugs involved. There's a lot of things in it, but I wouldn't say adult to that extreme level. But it's just if you're up to like something that's police like, scientific, very complex, cliffhangers, and long reads, this is a good book. I like it generally as someone who doesn't read that much novels. Should we talk about the groups now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So, how
Or-
is you guys' group mates?
Wait, should we be discussing about our group mates? And
I don't think.
for
I don't know. I
others
feel like
to,
my group mates are generally very cooperative. I feel like I was really lucky to be in a group of people that were like talkative and were open to discussions. But I am aware that's not the case for everyone, unfortunately. But yeah, I think funnily enough, with the whole like reading the memory police thing, the most memorable assignments, I guess, would it be called assignments, was the book club discussions. It was actually the first time I've ever gotten involved in that kind of book club thing. And it was really cool because as someone who reads a lot, I would say, yeah, it's a very cool chance to talk about the themes that you see and compare your interpretations with other people. So yeah, I don't know, what do you guys think?
Mm.
Well, I do agree with you. One of the best parts about the book club was the discussions because you get to hear other people's opinions on the books and how far along they read, their impressions of the book. So it was kind of interesting to find out more about that aspect of the discussions, I suppose.
Oh well, I mean, for my group, I mean, some of them are not some of them. A lot of them are not people I'm very close to. Might I say they're more of a quiet kind of people. I have to lead most of the discussions. I kind of wish that they talked more. I had fun though with the book club. I could hear like their own perspectives on it, how what they liked about the book, what kind of characters they like. It was fun sharing opinions. Honestly, like I genuinely liked that part.
That's kind of like the thing that I feel like would foster your communication skills, I guess, like how to talk and kind of lead a group. And yeah, I
Yeah,
think we all have very different group dynamics because we didn't get to choose the people that are in our own group, which I feel like is in a way kind of a good choice because it lets you kind of get out of your comfort zone, I guess you would say.
true,
But
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
maybe there is an upside too.
I mean, I
Wait,
personally
maybe there's an upside if your group doesn't like cooperate
I
easily.
mean, I'm kind of okay with like the fact that the teacher was the one who picked the group because yeah, we got to meet like people we don't talk to a lot and kind of have a discussion with them.
Yeah, I think that the most important part of this book club activity was to have communication with your group. A lot of communication. That's like one thing I think all of the groups learned is to have more communication and more teamwork and understanding between each of the members, just so that group discussions can be more effective in the future.
So for the books that we read, I think we had quite a lot of notes to write. I think we had like a document where we basically like recorded the global context that we see appearing in the story and the summary and some quotations from the chapters that we find were significant to the plot or just stand out to us, I guess. Yeah, it was quite a lot actually. That took quite a while to finish. But yeah, I think even though it was kind of hard and kind of time consuming, I would say that it really helped in kind of organizing my thoughts. And, like if the time comes when I have to like write an assignment on this book, I wouldn't have to read the whole book again. So, yeah, I think it was really helpful. And it's kind of fun, I would say, in a way. What do
I
you guys
mean,
think?
yeah, I mean it's true that we did have to write a lot of notes. It was like yeah, it was like mostly what affairs happened with like each characters, what happened to them, and what developed them into a better quote unquote character. I feel like essentially it did. I feel like it did made some kind of sense out of things because most of the time I would forget what happens in each book, and I feel like that's a good activity. I'm glad that the teacher told us to do it.
Yeah, and I like that one of our activities was group work for taking notes on the summary of the book that we had to make. That was actually our formative, if I'm not mistaken. One of our activities, which was an assessment, was to work with our group mates to make notes based on the books we read. So each group had to make their own notes. It was overall, for my group at least, it was hectic because we were trying to divide tasks and we were trying to be as effective as possible. And I guess eventually we all just learned that communication is the most important thing, which we found out which we realized in the middle of doing the notes. So I mean, we could have been more effective in making the notes, especially for completing the details and completing several sections of it. But from the activity, I think that it was just pretty nice to be able to bond more with the people in your team, especially if you don't really know them very well, because it's kind of like an opportunity for you to communicate more with them.
Yeah, for my group, the group notes thing, we actually kind of didn't do it at all, to be honest, because I remember we set one person to kind of like write down notes on our discussion, but I think that person kind of forgot to do it because we all kind of got carried away in the discussion. So yeah, I think it was the same for me. It was pretty hectic, and I really think that you shouldn't do that because it was not how it's supposed to be done. So yeah.
My group wasn't that hectic. I feel like we did do it calmly. There wasn't a lot of discussions, but I think we kind of just divided the group work, like what to do effectively. So mine was kind of okay in the bright side. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so like, what did we learn from it, or like, what did we get from this whole book club activity? Did it like benefit you in any kind of way?
I feel like I kind of learned about myself in a way. It's just that, oh
Really?
yeah, this is how I read the books, how I accepted the story, and this is how I interpret those things. And I don't know, I feel like in terms of strengths and weaknesses, I feel like I don't really pay attention to symbolism. I think that's really something that I still kind of struggle with, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I kind of realized that because the assignment to me was really fun. The whole reading thing, the whole book discussion thing, the whole thing was really fun to me. I think I found out that, oh, I actually like doing this. So I think what I learned in the end is just that, like, wow, this is kind of fun, because it's something that I haven't really done before. In the past, where I had to read a book for school, it has always been just like very individual, I guess I would say. Yeah, it's just like, oh, I would read this book and I would take my own notes individually without being having told by the teachers. And yeah, this was just like a really cool experience, I would say.
I mean, that's very nice. I personally, I like how I learned how to take notes for the book, which I don't usually do when I read stuff. So that's very nice. And the strengths and weaknesses. I think I'm very much more effective when I read books at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. because because I just
Very
finished the
nice.
whole book. Very nice. I know, right?
But
I just finished the
don't make
book.
it sound like it's advice.
It's not advice. It's not advice.
I
Like
mean, if
that's
it
not
works
good.
for you. I mean, like, I
Yeah,
feel like
I
some
mean,
people are productive in different times.
true, true, true. That's different for everyone, right? But for me, apparently, I get more productive at the middle of the night. So that was nice. Yeah, that's what I learned a lot about how things
You
will
learned a
affect
lot
you.
about yourself,
Oh my god,
just as
yeah.
I did.
I learned, yeah,
Kind of
I
funny
learned
actually
about
because if
myself.
I could add a little bit, I feel like I'm very different because I feel like I see myself as like a morning person. I think I vividly
Ah,
remember every day before school like reading 2 chapters of the memory police and just writing down all of the notes and trying to
oh
finish it
my.
before school starts.
Um,
So yeah.
I think one thing that I learned from this activity was leadership skills, especially when you kind of have to lead the discussions or you have to lead the conversation and the group you're working with. So that was like one skill that I learned from this activity. I think my strengths were in, I think, conducting the discussion. Like that was one of the things that I was most proudest of. And I think a weakness is, I think like we just needed more communication technically, just to be able to get things to work more effectively and to have better understanding between each team member.
Yeah, I
So
relate to Tanaya about the leadership thing. Yeah,
yeah,
I also, I also obtained that. Apparently, forgot about that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
nice. I think we all got some kind of improvement, or we learned something socially
And
about
communication
communicating.
skills too. I feel like it really improved that skill. Maybe do you guys have any advice to give the underclassmen
Guys,
listening to this?
under-
If if the time ever comes for them to read a book for English?
don't read it at 3 a.m. Don't. Don't. Just don't. I feel like you should try to start slowly. Like don't just try to think about reading it too fast or like finishing it fast because it's not gonna work. You're eventually gonna forget certain things because there's like a thing where you could just skip the lines when you're reading it. So that's not good. I feel like if you're just trying to analyze it, you should also take notes if you think some events are important. Well, that's what I didn't do, so that's bad.
Yeah, I
Probably
agree.
yeah.
I feel
How
like
about
it's kind of
you, Joy?
different for everyone though, right? Because
True, true.
I was about to say that, oh, just follow whatever the teacher says, but maybe what the teacher tells you to do, sorry, wouldn't fit the way that you learn, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess
True, true.
just find out how you work, I guess. Find out
Yeah,
more about
like
your strengths and weaknesses and what makes you motivated to study.
yeah.
Yeah.
What makes you comfortable the most?
Mm-mm.
For being
And the
productive.
most
That's like the
effective
most.
one because at the end of the day you have to make some compromise, you have to be kind of uncomfortable to finish the assignments, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
yes. I think that for those of you who choose to do this book club activity or you have this assignment, maybe try to bond with your teammates first before getting into the assignment. So that way you can kind of get to know your teammates more. So it won't really be awkward when you're kind of conducting discussions with other people. It's just kind of like a icebreaker, so that it won't be awkward between everyone in the group. And also, I think in a group, you should try to be understanding with other group members as well. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
difficult,
Agree.
but try to have patience and understanding.
So yeah, I think that's most of the advice, quote unquote advice
I
we
think
could
that's
just give
all.
to everyone. Yeah, so thank you everyone for listening to
Thank
us
you
just
everyone
talk.
for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for just listening to us talking about the activities that we had in our class for term 3, English A. So yes, again, thank you for listening, everyone. We hope that
Yeah.
this may be helpful for other IB students, like underclassmen who are gonna get these kind of activities. So thank you for listening.
Thank
Yes, thank you
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
All right. So, wow, that what a very lively and nice podcast, everyone. Thank you. So, from the discussion, we can see that you guys did enjoy the activity, the book club activity. For that memory police book, I've read some reviews actually, and most of the reviews also mention that this book also interesting and has that kind of complexion that the reader would like to read more and more. And the advice from Keisha, please, yeah, do not rate it at 3. All right, so let's take a note on that. All right, thank you, everyone. So, for the questions, oh, we have new questions here from the audience. Let me read it for you. So, there is a question for a new reader. Which book that suits for a newbie, fiction or non-fiction? So, anyone would like to give answer for that question? So which one would you like to give them advice, fiction or non-fiction? Alia, Tanaya, or Keisha?
I feel like it really depends on your taste. Like, what do you like reading? And just dividing it into fiction and fiction, they're still both very big genres, because in fiction you have like romance, you have dramas, you have fantasy, and all of those stuff. And in nonfiction, you have maybe like self-help books or, stuff like that. So I don't know. I personally think that fiction maybe would be better, but then again, it's different for everyone. Tanaya or Keisha, do you have anything else to add?
Not really. I think I agree with you that it all comes back to what your preference is. So basically, what you prefer to talk about, what you prefer to do research about, perhaps. If you're the type of person who likes to do more research, then and you like to look at things more realistically, perhaps you would like to read nonfiction. But if perhaps you'd kind of want to find an escape from your everyday life, or you want to have like improve your imagination on certain aspects, then perhaps fiction would be a better choice.
All right, thank you, Tanaya and Alia. Keisha, do you want to add?
Honestly, I also have the same opinion as them. But for most people that I've heard from who are newbie readers, they all actually prefer fiction because again, like what Alia and Tanai say, it really depends on what you're looking for. It may be research purposes or you're interested in someone's life history, maybe like somewhat historical, maybe nonfiction. But if it's for someone for like the sole purpose of entertainment, maybe fiction will fit them the best.
All right, thank you, everyone. So hopefully that can answer the questions from the audience. So the next question. So we know that you guys already discussed about the book activity inside what's inside the book activity. So if I would like to ask you a personal question, so what are the most memorable things that you can remember when you read a book? So maybe in terms of you will be remembered, but only the character or the main, what is it? The main event that happened during the story, or anything else. Anyone would like to give the answer?
I think that when I read a book, the first thing that I remember would be the plot. I don't necessarily remember all of the characters, especially if there are like an abundance of characters. I would probably remember like one or two of the main characters. But for me, what's most memorable is the plot itself. So I kind of know where the story is going, and I know if it's kind of going in the direction that I was hoping for. And well, if it isn't, then I would be kind of disappointed, but I would like read on. But if the plot was interesting, then I would like keep reading on, and I would be satisfied with it. But what about Alia or Isha?
I feel like in terms of the books that we read in English, I feel like most of them are very plot focused. But personally, when I read books for myself, I really think that the characters are a very significant part of the story and what keeps me going personally. And yeah, I don't know, I just really love doing like character analysis and stuff like that. So yeah.
For me personally, in terms of like reading books for myself and like for English too, I always pay attention mostly to the characters because I feel like if I don't find the characters interesting enough for me, for my taste, I feel like I'm not gonna be too attracted to the book, even though the plot it's still good. I feel like if the characters are not like, oh, I want to get to know them better, or like I want to analyze them, I feel like I wouldn't be too into the plot because that's what happened. But I feel like for like the last placement, I did actually get interested to like one of the characters who are actually like a side character. So yeah, I feel like for me, characters are very important.
Okay, so we have different answers from this question. Thank you, everyone. So you have mentioned about the plot of the story. So what about the ending that you want to have when you read a book? Do you have, if you can choose, what kind of ending do you want to have when you read a book? Is it like the open ending, or happy ending, bad ending, or anything?
Who wants to go first? Okay, maybe I'll go first. uh, Personally, I like realistic endings. I feel like realistic can go like the good ending or like the happy ending, or it can also be like the bad or sad ending. I just like when an ending is realistic and it stays true and consistent to the story that happened before that. So yeah, but if I had to choose between happy or sad ending, I would probably choose sad ending just because I like very dramatic stories, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Alia. Yeah, Keisha, do you want to add?
We're talking about endings, right? For me, I feel like I also agree with Alia because I hate it when stories have endings that don't make sense at all. Especially it like I've seen some endings that um, can also alter or like ruin a character's development, and it's like, oh, you had this development, but then it all comes crashes to this one unrealistic ending. Yeah, so I agree with Ali that realistic endings are good, but I like bittersweet endings a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's something into it that makes you like, oh, okay. I don't know. I like sad endings too. I'm not a big happy ending person, but if I had to choose, it's just in the. I like something like in the middle. Like not everyone is happy. Some of them are sad.
Yeah, I also agree with Alia and Keisha because I really like endings that are again realistic and also sad because it gives a new perspective to life that like yeah, not every story has a happy ending, and yeah, it's okay sometimes to have like sad endings, but then you like move on from it. So in a way, it's kind of sweet, but at the same time, it's like oh, melancholy. Um, yeah, but I like sad endings.
Okay, thank you. So bittersweet ending, realistic. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have question from the audience. The question is there any recommendation of fiction book for a newbie? Do you want to give maybe one of your most memorable book when you are when you read it at the first time before? Do you want to give them a recommendation? A fiction book. Oh, I think everyone is still looking at their book collection. Which book should they recommend?
Okay, I read a lot of books, but I
Okay.
can't think of any right now. But I feel like it would go back to what your taste is. I feel like the most common genre that you would find nowadays is fantasy, but I feel like then again some of them are very complicated and has like very complicated world building and stuff like that. So maybe if you're a newbie, maybe start with the contemporary genre because they're very set in like real life and most of the stories and the characters are very simple and it's very character focused and it's almost kind of like drama but not really drama in a way, so yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Alia. Tanaya, Keisha, do you have something in mind?
I don't have anything in mind because again, it reflects back to what the person prefers. If they prefer romance, then you would have to think again. Like, do you prefer long? Do you prefer novels or short stories? I think it reflects again back to like what the person would personally like as a genre, and also like how invested they would be to read the book. But yeah, I think if you're a newbie and you like fantasy, maybe start with like lighter fantasy books, like what Alia mentioned. A lot of books right now that are currently trending is our fantasy books. So I would probably recommend try reading like light fantasy, or if you're a newbie to fiction books, maybe a compilation of short stories.
Okay, thank you. Keisha, what about you?
Honestly, yeah. Again, yeah, like what Tanaya and Alia said, it really depends on the person. But I think the first thing that came into my mind for like books for newbies, for personally for me, when I started reading novels, the first book that I read, I think one of them was a book called Fangirl by Rainbow
By
Powell.
Rainbow Rowell,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, Rowell, yeah, sorry. It's been long that I read that book. I think I read that book back way in year 8 or year 7. It was like 4 to 3 years ago. So it's been long and it's been sitting on my shelf for long. But I don't want to say this is a recommendation because I forgot what the um plot is about, but it was very romance. I guess it centers around romance, but that's what I remember from it. And the reason why I picked that book was because at first I just thought the cover looked pretty. Yeah, and but then I ended up did reading the book, but now I forgot. So maybe if for romance readers you could read that. It's a young adult book. Yeah. So, but again it depends on your taste, honestly.
All right, thanks everyone. Hopefully, the audience who asked this question can have time to choose which book do you like to read. Okay, so I think this will be the last question. So, what kind of book do you want to discuss, guys, for the next book club activity? It's especially for the next academic year or for your academic purpose. Do you have something in mind? What kind of book?
I feel like it would be really cool if we did an assignments or analysis or read a book in the young adult genre, because I feel like in a broader sense, young genre is very undermined by a lot of people because it's just like, oh, it's the book genre that girls read. So yeah, I think it's really cool because I think I read a lot of young adult genres and I realized that, oh, this is actually like a really cool genre that has a lot of depth into it. And yeah, I think if I had to pick a specific one, maybe Circe by Madeline Miller or Ready Player One. That's pretty popular, and I think it would have a lot of cool analysis and interpretation if it was to be discussed in a book club. So yeah, what about the others?
I think I'd be interested to analyze like old classic books, mainly because the language and how it portrays like the plot itself. It's like written so intricately, so it's sort of it might be difficult to analyze for sure, but it will be like interesting to see like the perspectives of like other people on how like they perceive this book as or how they interpret it. So maybe books like by Agatha Christie, like The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, or perhaps something like Animal Farm by George Orwell. Like that would be interesting to just see what others' perception would be.
For me, I can't think of a book that I'd want to analyze right now because the only book I'm interested right now to read is only like Rashomon by Akutagawa Ryunosuke, which I've read some over and over again actually, and I think we're actually gonna analyze that in BE. But I feel like I would like to see more books from like foreigners like um so I don't know. I would like to see more genres to analyze. Maybe like horror. That'd be interesting to analyze. But yeah, I also agree with Tanaya about the historical. I feel like it's interesting to read not historical, classical books because the language they use is very interesting, and you can analyze what time period they're in and the history between it. So yeah.
All right, everyone. So let's give a virtual round of applause for the students. Good job, everyone. Thank you to Keisha, Tanaya, and Alia for your amazing session. It's great to see the wonderful talents of our students and what they have learned through our virtual classrooms. I hope that you enjoyed today's session and have learned something new from today. I would like to remind you all that this event doesn't stop today. After this session, there are still Cikal Bincang-Bincang sessions, and you can also browse through our virtual gallery on our website. You can see all our events on our website or check out the other same event on Sekolah Cikal official YouTube. Lastly, I would like to say thank you one more time to all the audience here today, fellow students, proud parents, and also respected guests. Thank you for having me as your host. Good morning and see you in Playground of Learning Journey, transforming beyond together. Thank you everyone, Alia, Tanaya, and Keisha.
Ku buka mata sambut mentari, nyalakan layar belajar lagi.
Sudah rindu kembali ke sekolah, tak sabar ingin segera bertemu lagi.
Meskipun jauh namun di hati, tawa candamu selalu temani.
Meski tak langsung menatapmu kawan, semangat belajarku takkan pernah padam.
Walau hanya di rumah saja,